In ancient times, people didn't start out living in cities and neighborhoods like they do today. There was no grocery store for food, no schools, libraries, or even YouTube for learning new things. No police, hospitals, or firemen to help in an emergency. And no same-day delivery for all the cool stuff we want. Without cities or homes, people had to move around a lot to hunt and gather food and protect themselves from danger. This was really hard. Eventually, people started working together to make things easier. When ancient people on Earth started working together to grow food and build cities, civilizations were formed. But what is a civilization? Civilization involves a group of people growing food, developing a system of writing, usually having a common language and culture, doing different jobs and trading with each other, and eventually having a system of government with rules or laws to stay organized. The first civilizations started in places where growing food for large numbers of people was possible. These places are commonly referred to as the Cradles of Civilization. Babies lay in cradles before they grow up into adults. People started building societies in these areas before they grew into a full-blown civilization. One cradle of civilization is found in the Middle East and Northeast Africa. This area is commonly known as the Fertile Crescent. See how it's shaped like a sideways crescent moon? Crescent, not croissant. Most of the area isn't fertile at all. It's a dry, parched desert. But the great rivers that flow in the area were used to bring water to the dry land for farming. Today, we are learning about two large rivers in this area that made civilization possible. These rivers are called the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. They stretch from modern-day Turkey down through Iraq and into the Persian Gulf. This area between the rivers was called Mesopotamia. Meso means between, and potami means river, kind of like how hippo means horse and potamus means river. A river horse? Kind of? Many cities were built in Mesopotamia, including many with complex names like Kish, Uruk, Ur, and Wasukani. The people of Mesopotamia are famous for lots of things, including creating a system of writing, using irrigation to bring water from rivers to their farms, building huge cities out of mud bricks, using some of the first wheels to spin pottery and later creating chariots, creating a class system of society, specializing labor, and creating a system of laws and rules for their society. Most of these things were completely new to the world at this time. Life in Mesopotamia centered around the water from the rivers. The rivers in Mesopotamia can be unpredictable. Sometimes, a big rainstorm miles away can make the river fill up too fast and flood their homes and farms. The farmers had to dig canals to bring the water to their farms and also build dams, levees, and gates to keep the rivers from flooding their homes and farms. A bad flood could wash away their crops, so they had to protect them. Not only did water help farmers grow food, but it also helped skilled workers make mud! Yes, mud! Wonderful, amazing mud! Did you ever think mud would be such a big deal? In Mesopotamia, the mud was thick like clay, and when it dried, it was hard. They could even shape the clay to make all sorts of useful things. Maybe not that. Some workers shaped clay into tablets. When a clay tablet was wet, people could use a knife or a pointed stick to carve symbols and writing into the clay tablet. When it dried, it would save what they wrote so that others could read it. This was so much easier than chiseling into a stone tablet, and much lighter to carry around. Plus, there's just a lot of clay in Mesopotamia. The first people in Mesopotamia were called Sumerians. They had their own system of writing that today we call Cuneiform. Cuneiform uses little wedge-shaped impressions and lines to represent words and ideas. Cuneiform was useful to keep trade records, write rules and laws, keep a history, and even write stories and poems. One of the oldest writings we have preserved is a poem called the Epic of Gilgamesh, about a king from Uruk and his adventures. It also features a story about a great flood that covered the earth. The story was written about 4,000 years ago. The Sumerians started schools to teach people cuneiform and other things like math. They used a number system based on the number 60. They used the number 360 to measure degrees and angles to create a perfect circle. They measured time using 60 seconds for 1 minute and 60 minutes for 1 hour. They even invented the sundial, the first known tool that measured time. They also created a calendar with 7 days in a week and 12 months in a year, based on the stars, constellations, and planets they observed in the sky. This was the beginning of astronomy, or the study of space. We are still using a lot of this today. Another great use for clay in Mesopotamia was bricks. The bricks could be hardened by drying in the sun or made really hard by baking them in a fire. The people of Mesopotamia built large cities out of these bricks. One of the most amazing types of buildings that they built with clay bricks were called ziggurats. Ziggurats were tall structures or temples with steps up them all the way to the top. Only the priests, priestesses, and other religious leaders could go to the top. The people that built the ziggurats worshipped many gods. In fact, each city had its own special god that they worshipped mainly. When a culture of people worships more than one god, we call their religion polytheistic. Poly means many, and theism means belief in God. In the early days of Mesopotamia, each city had its own king, its own army, and its own rules. The king and the priests were the most important people in the cities. They would tell the people what to do to keep the gods happy. Merchants, traders, and artisans were part of the working class of people, and slaves were at the bottom of the social structure. Everyone in the city paid taxes to the priests and the king. The taxes were used to run the kingdom. These little kingdoms were called city-states. Sometimes the different city-states got along. Other times they didn't, and they fought. They would fight over land, water, and other things. Sometimes the losers in the fight would become slaves. One of the city-state kings was named Sargon. He was the king of Akkad. He used his army to conquer other city-states and create a unified empire called the Akkadian Empire. This made him the first great king in history that we know of. He ruled over Sumerians for over 50 years. He used his army to keep other cities afraid. The people would obey, even if they weren't happy with him as their ruler, because they were scared. Sounds fun, right? Eventually, Sargon's empire fell to his northern rival, Babylonia, which is a story for another video. Even though their empire didn't last forever, many of the inventions and achievements of their civilization impact our lives today. So look around our modern world and notice just how many amazing things we have. And they all started with a group of people playing with mud. Thanks, mud! If you like learning about history, check out our other videos. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. See you in history class.